The Fedora Linux project, and of course Red Hat, which pays for and controls Fedora Linux, now has a track record, a pattern, an established pattern of weaponizing their code of conduct against Jews. This is very, very bizarre and very, very yucky. I'm going to walk you through all of this because it's ridiculous. And this, I should be clear, this doesn't just apply to weaponizing their code of conduct against Jews, because realistically, this is about Fedora Linux and Red Hat weaponizing a code of conduct against anyone they don't like. That includes straight men, that includes white people, especially white men, and that also includes Jews, because they don't like us Jews, clearly. Now, I'm going to just read this through here. I posted all of this up on X as it was happening, so I'm going to read what I posted there. The Fedora Linux project, run by Red Hat, is now issuing code of conduct violations to people who suggest that something might be anti-Semitism, but they allow threats of genocide against Jews, and they also allow people to call Jews Nazis. Those are all allowed by Fedora Linux. Now, in this particular case, the website for a software project put the phrase "Free Palestine" at the top of the project. Here, I'm just going to show it to you real quick so you can see exactly what we're talking about. Here it is. This is for SASS, for SASS, CSS with superpowers. And across the top, it just says "Free Palestine." All right, that's it. That's it, and that's all. One Fedora contributor stated in a conversation that he considered that to be anti-Semitism, and it did, quote, "not exactly endear me to the language as a whole," end quote. Here, I'm just going to show you the full friggin' thing so you can see it here. Unfortunately, he says, the blatant anti-Semitism through the SASS language site does not exactly endear me to the language as a whole, and certainly not their implementation thereof. That's it. That's what he said. Now, whether I agree with him or you agree with him, whether you think it's anti-Semitic or not, really not the point. This was one guy suggesting that he considered one thing to be anti-Semitic, and it didn't endear him to it, right? He wasn't super excited to use it because of the Free Palestine thing. Now, he's free to say that. I'm free to say that, and both of us, all of us, are free to disagree with that. Right? That's fine. Now, a Red Hat employee, in this case, David Cantrell, responded via his redhat.com account with the following, quote, "The Fedora Code of Conduct Committee," they have a whole committee, "has reviewed this comment, acknowledges that there was a violation of the Code of Conduct, and notes that the views expressed do not represent the views of the Fedora community," end quote. So they issued a code of conduct violation against this guy. It remains to be seen what the code of conduct committee will do vis-a-vis banning or silencing him. They have done so in the past with people who have said things that they generally disagree with politically. So we'll see what they do with that. The real issue here, though, is that they're coming down hard on something that's said by a Jew that really wasn't all that offensive. He wasn't demanding anything. He wasn't whipping out, a bunch of swear words. He wasn't calling for violence. He was just expressing his personal opinion. Now, other portions of the Fedora Linux, Red Hat, including Red Hat employees, and the open source world have, since this occurred, chimed in with a flurry of vulgar, often profane attacks on Israel, on Jews specifically, not just Israelis, but specifically just Jews, along with several declarations of "from the river to the sea," which is a statement advocating for the murder of all Jews in Israel. That's what that is. It was crafted by a group that declared that their intention was to murder all the Jews, and "from the river to the sea" means from the river to the sea, kill all the Jews, make sure there's no more Jews. Right, that's what that statement is. Here's one such screenshot from one guy. calling the statement "Free Palestine" anti-Semitic is brain dead, and to say "keep politics out of code" is also complete misunderstanding of what free, Libre, and open source software stands for. That being said, this is cosmetic drama and shows a complete disregard for the code of conduct. And then declares "from the river to the sea, Palestine shall be free." Blah 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 blah. Now, of course, again, it doesn't really matter if you think the Free Palestine banner is anti-Semitic. Doesn't matter if I think it is. This guy was just expressing it, and that's fine, but he got a code of conduct violation for it. Now, the statements by Red Hat employees, by Fedora community project members, and the like, which were calling for and supporting the murder of Jews, none of those statements, not one, was flagged as a code of conduct violation, despite many of them occurring within the Fedora project itself. In other words, and be very clear about this, according to Red Hat, if you note that something might be anti-Jewish or anti-Israeli, that is a code of conduct violation. If you simply state your opinion that you are not loving something because you think something is anti-Israeli or anti-Jewish, that's you're committing a code of conduct violation, and you're liable to be suspended or banned from the project. However, if you express the viewpoint that all Israelis and Jews should be killed, need to be murdered, that genocide is good, if you swear about the Jews, if you call Jews Nazis, etc., that is not a code of conduct violation and is specifically ruled as being allowed by Red Hat and Fedora. And I want to be really clear about this because I don't want there to be any misunderstanding. The issue here is with Fedora and Red Hat's actions. It is not that the personal stances of individuals within the project are anti-Israeli or anti-Jewish. That's not an issue, right? Every person is free to have whatever political stance they want. People can think about whatever they want. They can vote for whoever they want. They can be communist. They can be capitalist. I don't care. It doesn't matter. There are two key issues here that really need to be specifically discussed. The first is that Fedora and Red Hat is enforcing their code of conduct in extremely biased, weaponized ways, right? Those who encourage violence or discrimination against Group A are allowed to do so without any consequences. Yet those who suggest or document that some people are against Group A are censored and declared to be in violation of the code of conduct. Now, this is not limited to Israel and Jews. This is just the latest example. There have been similar examples within that same organization, which the Lunduke Journal has documented extensively, where Group A was white men or straight men or Christians. On and on and on, they go after those groups, conservatives, on and on and on. This is the second issue here. Fedora and Red Hat has a clear political and religious bias at the organizational level, right? So Fedora Linux leadership and prominent members have a track record of attacking Group A, whatever that is at that moment, while defending anyone who attacks Group A. And they regularly do so using Red Hat corporate email addresses in the name of Fedora, Red Hat, and IBM. Now, again, Group A in this case could be white men, straight men, conservatives, Jews, on and on and on and on. There's a whole bunch of groups that they go after, right? We're not talking about personal opinions or political views. These are official actions by the organization to attack specific groups and defend anyone who goes on the attack, but silence anyone who even just mentions, hey, the people are getting attacked, right? That's crazy. That's crazy, and it's really worth noting that it's happening. Just as an example, last year, when was this? This was back in July. This guy, this member of the marketing team of Fedora Linux. So this was a core team member of Fedora Linux. His name was Daimar Stein. Daimar Stein, who has the little emoji for a Molotov cocktail in his name, because you instantly know he's a real good guy. He stated that I, a Jewish guy, is a Nazi. Now, he had a long thread before this talking about all sorts of things, and he was basically linking how me being me is a Nazi, right? He says, quote, because Lunduke is a Nazi and should never be used as a source for anything, they should really have a way to automatically detect the links to his website and just prevent people from linking it to discussions. Now, this is a spokesperson for Fedora Linux. This is a core part of their marketing team. And he was talking publicly about how this Jewish conservative, white, straight tech journalist is a Nazi. Now, here's the thing. That is a very clear violation of the Fedora Code of Conduct. Extraordinarily clear. Like night and day, there can be no whatever. There's no confusion that this is a code of conduct violation. Examples, according to, and we're looking at it right now, according to the code of conduct for Fedora Linux, examples of unacceptable behavior include saying insulting or derogatory comments and making personal attacks, public or private harassment, sexist, racist, homophobic, transphobic, ableist, exclusionary statements, even when they were meant as jokes, on and on and on. So there's, you could probably take a pick of 5 or 6 different ways this particular statement of calling me, a Jewish guy, a Nazi, is a clear violation. And talking about how we need to censor the Jewish tech journalist because, I don't know, he's Jewish, he's conservative, something. Pick your poison there. It's a clear violation. So I raised this issue last summer with Fedora Linux. I said, hey, I raised this to them. This is a clear code of conduct violation. What do you do in this scenario when a core member, one of your spokespeople, one of your marketing team representatives is making these clear, derogatory, insulting personal attacks when you could classify them almost as hate statements if you wanted to, if you were so inclined. What do you do? Is this something that you take action on, or do you allow it? Because I've seen the Fedora Linux team take a lot of action against people for absolutely nothing, for just coming out and saying, hey, that person over there seems to not like Jews very much, banned. So let's see. Well, the Fedora Linux Code of Conduct Committee took it under advisement and spent 6 months deliberating this. They kept kicking it down the road. And eventually they emailed me and said, after careful consideration, we're not going to do anything. It's fine. All done. So in other words, you can call people Nazis and it's totally fine and allowed, even though they're not Nazis, even though they're literally Jewish people, you can call them Nazis, and the Fedora and Red Hat teams love it. It's totally allowed. What's crazy here is, and really crazy, I mean, the more you look into this, the weirder it gets, is Fedora has this track record of banning people and issuing code of conduct citations and violations over the littlest disagreements in stupid stuff. Back in, let's see, what was the date here? This was on June 18th of this year. An individual who liked the idea of the Xorg fork. You guys remember when Xorg got forked and started the Ex Libre project? There was, some commotion around that, but someone, a long-term, like 20 plus year long Fedora contributor and user, went to the Fedora forum and said, hey, this looks pretty good. This Ex Libre fork, are we going to think about using this in Fedora? That person was insta-banned. He was, his post was hidden by the staff. They got rid of it so people couldn't talk about it, and his account was deleted basically and banned. So he can't ever log back in. All he did was suggest that he really liked the idea of a maintained fork of a display server. That's it. Didn't express a whole pile of political views, nothing. It was just, hey, I like the idea of a piece of software being maintained. I still use that. Are we going to think about including that in Fedora? Banned. Code of conduct violation. This is an ongoing problem. Within Fedora, like so many other organizations within the world of big tech and open source, which is really kind of the same thing nowadays, they regularly weaponize the code of conduct against whoever they view as an undesirable, whoever they view as having bad traits, right? And that includes white men, straight men, conservatives, Christians, and Jews. Those are groups they don't like. And there is now an established, well documented by the Lunduke Journal over the course of the last several years. Just look through the reporting I've done. It's massive. There's a well-established pattern of attacking people with those traits in those groups, etc., while defending people who attack those people, right? Call a conservative a fascist. Well, that's allowed. If a conservative speaks up and says, I don't really want to be called a fascist, banned. Call a Jew a Nazi. Tell them we gotta bash the Nazis and get the Nazis and kill the Nazis, aka Jews. Well, that's allowed. Someone stands up and says, I don't really like that thing that looks kind of anti-Jewish over there, banned. Code of conduct violation. It's an ongoing pattern and track record. And what's amazing is these same people, these same individuals who weaponize their code of conduct in the most vulgar, profane, and frankly, evil, discriminatory ways are the ones who spend the most amount of time talking about inclusivity and diversity and how we shouldn't discriminate. And they're the only ones doing it. This is worth looking at. We're going to keep looking at it because this is happening throughout all of big tech and open source, and we can't stop talking about it. We just can't. We can't until it's gone. We have to remove this. This is absolutely destroying so much of open source, free software, and just the world of computing. We can't allow it. Thank you to the Lunduke Journal subscribers for making this sort of reporting possible, because heaven knows the other big tech news outlets aren't going to cover this at all. Notice how this story is not on Verge or Wired or Ars or The Register or ZDNet or any of these other ones. Yeah, that's thanks to all of you that this happens at all. These stories wouldn't even be covered at all if it weren't for supporters of the Lunduke Journal. So many stories. It's amazing. Go look over the hundreds and hundreds of stories that the Lunduke Journal has published this calendar year alone, and notice 80+% of them were never even mentioned by any other tech journalist, even the ones that are supposed to cover that particular area. Right? People who say they cover enterprise computing and open source, yet they don't touch any of the Red Hat stories. Yeah, right. Anyway, but you make it possible. It really wouldn't be possible without you. So go to lunduke.com, click on some links, grab free subscriptions, grab a paid subscription if you want to support the work that I do. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, nerds and nerdettes across the inner tubes, I do declare end broadcast.